Hey everyone! Today's video is going to be some more story headcanons on what Pyrrhia might look like after the conclusion of the War for Sandwing Succession. I think that after such a long period of intense warfare, a lot of the tribe's cultures, especially the Sandwings, would have deteriorated a lot. So in the years following the war, a lot of things probably changed as dragons were looking to distance themselves from the mindsets and issues that caused the war to happen in the first place. Also, we'll take a peek at where some of our main characters have ended up. The headcanons will be somewhere around 30 years in the future. I'm going to work my way down the map and talk about how I think things go. Also, as I ramble, take this drawing of Jazz, my OC, making music in post-war Pyrrhia. So we'll start in the Ice Kingdom. I think after the war, the Icewings would withdraw back into their borders as a kingdom. They have a long history of self-isolation, and I don't think the war would change that. With a society as rigid as theirs, a war like this would only reinforce the central idea that isolation is the way to go. However, a lot of the younger generations of Icewings would head south, I think, both to visit Jade Academy and other schools like it that have sprung up, and just to see what's out there. Young dragons tend to be rebellious, and with standards as rigid as the Ice Kingdom, it is easy to rebel. Some return to the Ice Kingdom after time and bring with them new ideas and experiences. Change comes as slowly as glaciers melt in the Ice Kingdom, but it is coming. Many Icewings forged strong bonds and relationships with their Sandwing allies during the war, and in the chilly, empty strip of land between the two kingdoms, these dragons have settled to start families near both of their kingdoms. They serve as intermediary between the Icewings and Sandwings, sometimes when the Icewings are too stiff or the Sandwings are too exploratory. Heading further south, we hit the Sand Kingdom. The Sandwings tend to be a rambunctious tribe, especially now that the war is finally over. They're famous for their music, festivals, and dances. Sandwings have hundreds of local dances, some only found in small communities and in the cities. They're also growing famous for their foods, especially grilled and spicy foods. Sandwing cooking has spread into the Sky and Mud Kingdoms, where other dragons are also enjoying their spicy desert food. These traditions prevail even in the formerly stale and rigid Sandwing Palace, thanks to the commoner roots of their queen. Thor may be royalty now, but she's a street dragon at heart, and she loves good music and company as much as any of her outclaws. The most famous of their festivals are the summer and winter solstice celebrations. Dragons flock to the Sandwing cities and the palace itself to dance and meet new dragons throughout the entire night. The Sand Kingdom is housing a growing number of hybrids, too. The Scorpion Den has seen an increase in largely Rainwing-Sandwing hybrids thanks to the tunnel connecting their kingdoms, like Jazz, the musician I'm drawing in this video. Also, border towns like Possibility are becoming hodgepodges of all kinds of hybrids. Unfortunately, in these towns, poverty is rampant. The population is exploding, and a lot of dragons are only there to avoid bigotry in more central cities. The Talons of Peace have evolved into a more charitable organization in recent years, spearheading outreach in the poorest parts of these cities. In the remains of the former Night Kingdom, a small part of the Night Tribe has started a new, small kingdom of their own, beneath the mountains that used to make their border. For now, they are pretty busy trying to restore their kingdom. Continuing east, we'll find Jade Mountain. The school has expanded dramatically, now accepting over 100 students yearly. There are also 3 other schools now, offshoots of the original. Every year, the dragons meet for a festival at the original school, where they host competitions both academic and athletic in nature, along with feasts and dancing. This is a pretty huge event, as many of the students' families attend, attracting vendors and artisans as well. The Rainwing has flourished under Glory's rule. The Nightwings who return there are treated fairly, and have begun to integrate more fully with the Rainwings. Their powers are returning, but with a growing rate of hybridization, a lot of them end up muted and less terrifying. The Rainwings have emerged as Pyrrhia's center of many artistic trades, however. The Rainwings have an eye for beauty, weaving clever tapestries and crafting vivid paintings and pottery. The Nightwings are taking part in the fun too. They are becoming rather well known for their smithing and jewelry. Many rich or noble dragons commission art or treasure from the rainforest. Using the tunnel to the Sand Kingdom helps them spread their wares across the entire continent. In the Mud Kingdom, many Mudwings haven't changed much. Some have withdrawn back to the depths of their swamps, enjoying the chance to live in safety with their siblings. However, many Mudwings, including survivors of the war who didn't have sibling groups, or those who couldn't stand to be in their kingdom anymore, headed for new sites. Dozens of tiny villages are popping up on the border of the Sea and Mud Kingdoms. An entirely new subculture is developing there as well, a mixture of Mudwings, Seawings, and over double that amount of Seawing-Mudwing hybrids. The villages stretch from north of the Diamond Spray Delta, almost to the Scavenger Stronghold in the east. Most tend to be fairly simple and sparse, and the dragons who inhabit them value peace and acceptance. Traveling north, we find the Sea Kingdom. The Sea Wings have returned to their underwater palace with the destruction of the Summer Palace. However, many of them made friends during the war or afterwards, so a few beach towns begin to appear as time goes on. However, most siblings still prefer their native habitat, the deep sea. This doesn't mean they're reclusive, however. They contribute dozens of varieties of seafood to Skywing and Mudwing markets, and some travel even further. In her later years, Queen Coral has begun to leave a lot of the tasks of ruling to her daughter Anemone, while she spends much of her time teaching literature and writing courses in Jade Academy and its offshoot schools. Although it is highly unusual for queens to do this, Coral has found she has a true passion for it, and since she is royalty, nobody can exactly tell her not to. And heading northwest, we find ourselves in the last kingdom, the Sky Kingdom. The Skywings, after all, are still a fairly warlike tribe. However, Queen Ruby has managed to channel a lot of their energy into honing the art of war instead of practicing it. The Sky Kingdom is famous for its rough sports and gladiatorial arenas, thankfully voluntary at this point in history, and for their boisterous feasts and songs. A lot of Sandwings have drifted their way over time, drawn by the excitement of the sparring and martial arts, and the dazzling life found in their parties. In turn, many Skywings drift south when the festival season is at its height. There are several groups of dragons who simply spend their time revolving from the Sand Kingdom's lively cities and the passionate bouts of gladiatorial matches in the Sky Kingdom. Anyways, that's the state of the main kingdoms. Most of them have turned to things other than fighting, although some dragons still enjoy the art of it. Before we go, there's a few groups and dragons to note. Thorn's Outclaws are still her most loyal supporters. These days, they've morphed into her royal guard and her intelligence network. Her Outclaws are her spies, her eyes and ears throughout her kingdom and beyond. They're also highly trained fighters, most boasting learning their skills from the masters in the Sky Kingdom. They're led by Ostrich, who's in charge of the guards, and Keebly, Thorn's spy master. Keebly and Moon moved to the Sand Kingdom together some time ago, but Moon travels regularly to the schools to visit students and give counseling where she's needed. The Dragonets of Destiny, Sans Glory, still frequent the schools they started. Clay splits his time between Jade Mountain and his family in the Mud Kingdom. He has about 24 nieces and nephews these days. Sunny, Starflight, and Fatespeaker are inseparable, and they rarely leave the school. Tsunami helps teach self-defense at the schools, but like many others, she is drawn to the rough and exciting lifestyle emerging in the Sky Kingdom, and these days, she spends much of her time there, sparring and wrestling, and generally getting out her energy by being as rambunctious as possible. She travels a lot to visit friends and family, though. Glory, with Deathbringer, Kinkajou, and several others by her side, is still plowing her way through the tattered Rainwing tribe, determined to drag them back to life and to take the Nightwings with her. She's famous for her fairness and determination, and many young Dragonets find her a huge inspiration. Moon visits the rainforest on occasion too, though she finds herself occupied with Keebly and the schools for the most part. Winter is still living his best life studying scavengers. However, Turtle and Kinkajou moved to Sanctuary, and the two of them refuse to let Winter isolate himself for too long. They make sure the Icewing socializes, remembers to eat, and returns to town when friends visit. Peril visits on occasion, but she tends to stick with Clay in the safe, fireproof stone of the schools. However, she despises the swamps and the mud, so when he visits family, she tends to take the chance to see her own friends. The Talons of Peace have grown in their reach, and they work to help hybrids and those still struggling with war injuries to find work and space to live and have families. They also help the Jade Academies distribute works of literature that bring pieces of tribal culture to all corners of Pyrrhia. Pyrrhia isn't perfect. Bands of dragons who enjoy the war and the cruelty it excused find chances to attack and steal from villages and small cities, and many dragons are bitter about the rapid and widespread changes. But, for the most part, the continent is experiencing a newfound era of peace and forgiveness. And that'll wrap up this video! I had a really fun time with this, imagining where all of our favorite characters and kingdoms might be in 30 years. Y'all let me know which kingdom was your favorite in the comments, alright? Anyways, don't forget to check out the links in the description of this video. Thanks so much for watching, and please have a blessed week.